Welcome to the Identity and Access Management Dev Room. Our next presenter is Daniel Tröder, and he will be talking about Nubus. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Tröder. I'm software architect at Univention. This is my first time at FOSDEM, and I'm enjoying it quite much. Maybe a bit too much. So when I practiced this yesterday, I noticed that I need way too long, and this is a dev room, so I guess you all want to see also some under the hood stuff, and so I'm going to try to skip over the corporate stuff. Just two words, Univention is a small company in Germany with developers from Spain, the States, and, well, Germany. And the IAM, it produces all open source. It's all Affero, v3, and while it also works in small and medium businesses, it's mostly, our target group is the public sector and the educational sector. Educational sector is very interesting for IAMs because you have these domains in schools, and then you have the school authorities, which is like a domain of domains, so like a forest or something. And then you have the states, the ministries that are domains, or well, there are like collections of school authorities. So you have like lots of levels, and at every level you have different authorization, but common authentication. And so it's very interesting context for IAMs. And yeah, our vision is digital sovereignty. And we think the IAM is like the foundation for that. If you don't control your identities, then you're missing like the foundation for your environment, because you cannot control what's going on. And so our founder is part of the Open Source Business Alliance and its European partner, APEL. So you find Nubus as an IAM at the core of other products. I mean, who needs an IAM? No end user ever wants to do anything with them. They're interested in the applications, right? And in most environments, you have already an IAM, like an Active Directory, Okta, and Entra, and how are they all called. And so an IAM needs to integrate with that, and also it, of course, needs to integrate the applications, which are the actual value for the end users. And this is an example of how Nubus is, for example, deployed in openDesk. That's the office and collaboration suite of the German government that it's issuing to its officers. And there it integrates lots of applications with the upstream identity management systems, which already exists, of course. And you find Nubus in two variants. One, where it was originally developed for, is a VM-based distribution. Well, actually, it's a Debian-based distribution. It really is Debian under the hood, plus lots of custom packages. And just a few years ago, we started ripping out all the core parts of Nubus and putting them into containers and splitting them up into more containers and so on, until it is, cloud software, you would call it. So you install it from a DVD or ISO image, whatever, in your virtual machine or on bare metal, and you get like a turnkey solution that scales well until, I don't know, 100,000 users maybe on a few servers, right? 20 servers or something. And or you install it via Helm with one command into Kubernetes, and then it's meant to scale upwards. Or actually, you can also use it downwards. It runs on my notebook, so it's needs more or less the same memory. Like I said, we're targeting medium-sized organizations, so 100,000 to 1 million users, and works with more or less too. Nubus is split up into functional components. You get the identity provider, which is Keycloak, the portal which tells each user what applications they have access to, self-service, so you don't bother the help desk, and so on. Directory manager is the API to access the data in the LDAP, which is called identity store here. And an authorization service that's new is it's a REST API where you can add rules and conditions and combine those to create roles and permission sets, which you can then use to authorize access to attributes or objects or actions. Depends on your application, so an application needs to use that. And in the back end of that works Open Policy Agent, the great software that, and the rules are generated from that API into the OPA. And then there's the provisioning service, which generates events for changes in the backend, so in the LDAP, so that you can, here, where was that? So that like Open Exchange can be provisioned, can provision its users and groups from changes in the LDAP. Okay, so this is basically what Nubus offers, a way to get identities into the identity store, encode them, validate them, store them, and all of that. And then to issue events to your third-party applications, and well, that's all an IAM usually does, plus single sign-on, obviously. And okay, so this is like the data flow that you usually have. You don't have only interactive adding of users. Obviously, you have upstream systems or import processes where data gets into your IAM, and you have authentication, authorization there and everything, and then somehow that data gets sent out, filtered. Obviously, you don't need to send the birthday to get in to provision a mail account, for example, and so on to the applications. And so if you're a developer, for example, and you want your software to be accessible or usable by users that have been created in Okta or Microsoft Entra or an Active Directory or whatever, then you don't want to usually connect to all of those IAMs yourself. And what you can use here is that you connect to the OpenID, well, that you authorize using OpenID Connect with Keycloak, and that you connect to the event API that tells you when there is a change in the LDAP directory. And so you work only with REST APIs. It's, I think, very comfortable for developers. And of course, so every environment, every customer, every user is different. And so you need to customize stuff, and you need to integrate it into the environment where things should be run. And there you have, of course, customization, which means CSS and buttons and icons and stuff, right, for the front end. And then you have the data model, which is, well, you can create custom objects. I mean, you have users and groups and computers and DNS, but if you need bananas, well, you can create a banana object. And then you also want to add attributes like user as enabled for Nextcloud, or I don't know, color of hair color or whatever, and so on. So you want to change the data model. So this must be like extensible, and then yeah, of course also the encoding for all the data and so on, right? And then you want to issue, or you want to integrate the applications that are the actual value for the end user. And that is done through interfaces. And so, as I said, portal is, well, it's all the front-end stuff. So you can add content there, CSS and so on. Then you can add properties and encoding and business logic. And okay, so I'm going to shortcut this, time's running. Maybe interesting is we're working on a SCIM server for the input and a SCIM client for the output to move from like our own data model, which is custom, and not everybody knows that, to a standardized data model. And extensions are installed using like a package where you can put all of that inside and then add that package to your Kubernetes cluster, or the virtual machine is a bit different, but basically the same thing. And there we had a problem because the whole thing should be BSI compliant. BSI is the German federal cybersecurity policy-making institution. I don't know. And they say, for example, that root file systems in containers must be read-only. And container images must be cryptographically signed. And so with these two things, how do we add code to our model? How do we change the look and feel? And that was a bit of a problem at first, and then we find out how we can do that. And it's actually quite simple. You create a container of your extensions, and that container you can sign, right? And it's, well, not changeable. And at runtime, no, at deployment time. At runtime, you can't change stuff, but at deployment time, the container is mounted as an init container. Oh, wait, there's an image for that, right? And the init containers are executed one after another. So first init container stores the original content of the directory where you want to add extensions. And then the extensions are added one after another to that, and that is mounted as a volume onto the actual program. And then you have immutable artifacts that are cryptographically signed, but still you have the possibility to add stuff to your application and to the data model and so on. And I will show you that later if I have enough time. The structure is a bit cut off. No, it's okay. It's very simple. In all that you need in your container is such a file system structure where you have the plugin types that are supported by Nubus. So that's LDAP schema, LDAP ACLs. UDM is this, well, it's the data model and the handler for that to like users, groups and stuff. And the management console is like the UI for management, and directory content, of course, you may want to add some example users or a directory structure in the LDAP, so you need a way to add objects, and that also using a YAML file. And we use this method ourselves for our own code. The portal, for example, is optional, or actually almost all components of Nubus are optional to install, and so they must use the same mechanism to add the data and the images and stuff that they need dynamically. Well, not dynamically, but at start time. Okay, demo time. And now. No. Wait. Yes. Okay, as I said before, I have started a small Kubernetes cluster on my laptop using Kind, very nice software, but works also with other Kubernetes single node distributions. And so there are the pods running. Each pod is a few containers. And if we now look, for example, at the UDM REST API, so that's the API to provision objects in LDAP, we see this cut off for me. Is it complete for you? Yes. So somehow this screen is not full screen for me. Okay, let's just kill the pod. and it will immediately spawn a new one. And now we see that multiple containers were created. There's one called compatibility and UCR commit. Ignore that. There's load internal plugins, load portal extensions, and then the actual container, UDM REST API. And these, if we now look at them, they do copy operations. Trivial CP 1-to-1. So from the source to something called /target, icons here, and so on. And then there's the load portal extensions, which is to add the extension that we need for the portal. And here you can see it skips the plugin types that are not supported because there is nothing at the target, so it cannot copy anything. And then it copies the stuff where it has found plugins. So that's UDM handlers and the set icons and syntax, which is encoders, and a module. And that's really the whole magic. Where is that? Ah, yeah. So if you look at the portal extension container, you can actually look into the plugins directory and see there's really that what I showed in the presentation. They're just those files. And the embarrassing simple loader is this crazy code that this is just copying. And that's legal and that's secure because the source and the target are signed and there is nothing in between that does that. So all code is signed and not changed at runtime. So plugins are simple to create. Hello. What's the other side? The other side is integration, and that's done using the provisioning API. Oh, wrong. What the? Oh yeah. Okay, here. So that's the provisioning API, the one that issues events. Well, actually, that offers to download events. So you can subscribe as a consumer, and then you get a name, your subscription. And when you subscribe, you say for what objects you want to subscribe, like users, groups, DNS entries, whatever. And then updates about those objects will be streamed to a queue. And your queue, every consumer has their own queue, so all consumers can work in parallel and asynchronously. And so I will demo this. So we import a HTTP client and, ooh, this is hanging somehow. Ah, yeah. The password is already running, so it's there. And here we get a list of subscriptions, so that means consumers. And we have the portal consumer because it creates kind of the cache for the portal about users, their groups, and what applications they can see. And then there's the self-service consumer that sends emails for newly registered users. But okay, we need our own test user, right? So we call it test. It is interested in users and groups, and it has a cool password, so a shared secret, and create it. And there you see our consumer is now there. And okay, let's look at get me the next message. And then we do long polling. We could have done, how's it called? Web service? No. Interactive HTTP APIs. So anyway, we do long polling. If there's nothing, then you get nothing. See, you get an empty JSON response. But if there is something, you get an immediate return with the new object. There's no change because we haven't done anything in the directory. So I'm going to change a user, admin .test1. Not found. How is that possible? I don't know what's wrong here. I was once too. So the user host has been changed, and if I now look for messages, I immediately get a change. So the administrator had the old first name was admin, and the new first name is admin test1. So we did change an object in the directory and got an event for that. And if I look for changes again, I will get the same change. Because we have first to acknowledge the change. So that's if your application crashes and then gets up again, it can just ask again if are there any changes, and if there were none, then you will still get the same message. So you can do the same. No, if you crashed, you can just ask again. You will get the same message and finish your task. And only when you finish your task, you set the state. You acknowledge the thing, and so that was message number 1. Okay, and then you have acknowledged the change, and you can move on to get the next event. Okay, time's running out. Yeah, final words. Okay, so time short. You can contact me via email, or there are documents online for architect, operators, and developers, and we have a forum where you can also contact us, and you will find me here if you have questions. We still have a few minutes maybe.
So we have almost 7 minutes.
Excellent.
Right? We have one question through Matrix, so I will read it for you. Sorry. On the slide about the setup with Kubernetes, there was a line, BSI compliant and higher security levels. Yes. So the question is, do you know about any users in VSNFD compliant environments?
Yes.
I gather this is something German government compliance specific.
Okay, can you repeat the abbreviation?
VS-NFD compliant.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Okay, maybe you can join Matrix and collaborate with
okay.
the person.
I will look there. Thank
you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.